That's all right.
When somebody's telling you one thing and then somebody's telling you the next thing, I'm getting so confused.
One of the things that I got irate about when I was a qualified driving instructor was people who thought that their imbecilic relative who did it for nothing actually knew better than the one they were giving at that time £4.60 an hour to.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, your father or husband or whatever gender... Father, well, they're as bad as husbands, because fathers are generally somebody else's husband.
Yeah.
He's getting grumpy now, isn't he? I can hear him. However, they generally don't know. They are telling you sometimes what they were taught, and the rules change, and other times they're telling you what they've been doing ever since they learnt to drive.
Yeah.
And driving instructors, like non-driving instructors, have a lot of bad habits. The thing that the instructor doesn't have is the teaching capacity, if you like, of those bad habits. He or she teaches you how you should drive to pass your test. I actually saw somebody the other day coming up on a dual carriageway to a roundabout in the near side lane, and they indicated right to go straight on. And I sat watching them and thought, well, maybe it was, but they were sat there. It wasn't a driving school car, it was an ordinary car with L plates on, and I thought that poor woman is being taught the wrong way to drive. The person must have told them that is how you approach a roundabout. They are wrong. So that poor woman has not just got the problem of learning to drive, she's got the other problem of unlearning the way she's been taught to drive, which means she's going to need more lessons, not less.
Yeah.
All you should do.
Yeah, because when I come in tonight, my dad says, oh, you should do this, and I got upset, and he says, I tell you what, he says, you ring Allan Beswick, he'll tell you the right way. And I said, I bet it's what the driving instructor says, not what you say. He said, well, you ring him up and ask him. So I'm glad I did.
Well, now demand an apology and a £5. All right, love.
Thanks a lot.
And send me £4 because a man must eat. Ta-ra. We shall... Cheers, ta-ra.
Yeah.
We shall talk to Wayne after the 11 o'clock news. The telephone number, if you wish to join us, is Preston 561,000. If this is the first time you're listening, you're absolutely astounded at what you hear. Don't worry, you've not flipped your lid. It is independent radio for Lancashire. Red Rose Radio, 301 metres, 99 kilohertz, 97.3 VHF in stereo.
The 11 o'clock news, this is Alan King. A judge is under attack after setting free a nanny who killed a baby girl in her charge. St Albans Crown Court heard how Deborah Philpott, who suffers from epilepsy, lost control and swung the baby round by the legs. She said a voice told her to do it. The judge put her on probation and ordered her to undergo hospital treatment, but the baby's parents, Douglas and Vanessa Howell, say it's a disgrace.
The life of a child is worth 40 minutes in a courtroom. And the monster that did it is to be put in a hospital for 2 to 3 months and then let out on the streets.
And given pills for 3 years. Or for the rest of her life.
This cannot be so.
An IRA assassin has hidden behind a baby's pram, then taken out a rifle and shot dead a policeman. The gunman, standing in a children's playground in North Belfast, raked the policeman's car with automatic fire as he was driving into an RUC station. A local Protestant clergyman, the Reverend Henry Heatley, says the terrorists plumbed the depths of human behaviour by sheltering behind children innocently at play.
I believe that they were used as cover by these gunmen, because they thought that the police were maybe able to fire back at them from the station, that they wouldn't do so with the little children in between. And this adds to the dastardliness of it, that so-called men who love Ireland, that proclaim to love Ireland, would not only murder a fellow Irishman, but use little children in their playground, on their swings, as cover.
British Aerospace has won an order worth £1,000 million for its new quiet civilian jet. The deal for up to 72 aircraft is with the Australian transport group TNT. Chief Executive Sir Raymond Ligo says it'll guarantee 5 years of work for most of the 7,500 staff involved in production.
It's one of those breakthroughs that comes at very significant points in the history of any programme, and of course in the history of British Aerospace, because this is its most expensive indigenous product, if you like. It's the aircraft that we have developed entirely with our own money, with no government support whatsoever, and it is crucially important to the future profitability of British Aerospace.
Newly elected Labour MP Ken Livingstone says the government's AIDS campaign would have been far more successful if Mrs Thatcher had gone on television to talk about safe sex and to show people how to use a condom. Mr Livingstone says the iceberg commercials warning people about AIDS were a waste of money and even had the Prime Minister's husband in a muddle.
It's so confusing that Dennis Thatcher stopped taking ice in his gin and tonic when they came out because he thought that might be the cause of AIDS. But the point I'm trying to get across is just if Mrs Thatcher had gone on television as Prime Minister and done a simple Prime Ministerial broadcast and explained in simple everyday language what safe sex is, how you get AIDS, and just demonstrated how to apply a condom, I mean, we would have saved all the money for the advertising and everyone in Britain would have watched it.
Independent Radio News.
I don't know that Mr Livingstone is actually being all that practical. I mean, in order to get one of those things on the requisite member, it has to be other than floppy. And I don't think Mrs Thatcher could actually manage that with anyone other than Dennis, and Izzy's all wrinkled anyway.
There's so much to see and do on the Isle of Man, you'll never fit it all in without a car. Fishing, windsurfing, motorsport, golf, you'll drive a long way before you find anywhere else with as much to offer. So put your foot down this weekend to the Isle of Man with Isle of Man Steam Packet Seaways from Heysham and Liverpool. See your travel agent.
The better way to get away, it's Isle of Man Seaways.
If you live in the Preston or South Ribble areas, you'll already have read about the £4,000 kitchen contest in the Red Rose Advertiser. Now we're opening up the competition, arranged in association with kitchen and bedroom specialists upstairs downstairs of Blackpool Road, Preston, to the whole of our radio audience. So here are 3 questions, and we want you to finish a sentence which we've started in not more than 25 words. Question 1, who played the butler in the TV series Upstairs Downstairs? Question 2, what was Mrs Bridges' job in the same series? And 3, who was the famous authoress who wrote a series of books on her life below stairs? And now that sentence, and it starts, I would like a fitted kitchen because. Entries to Kitchen Contest, P.O. Box 301, Preston, before July the 25th.
Ring him if you dare. Allan Beswick, the late night show.
And before you start writing in and complaining about me being rude about Mrs Thatcher, just remember I didn't start it. Preston 561,000 to join us on the phone, and it's 11:05.
In the Northwest, you know what's best. Red Rose Radio.
How do, Wayne?
Hello, Alan. I'd like to talk about police with arms, please.
For most of them have. They're not much use without arms. They'll never be able to direct the traffic.
No, I mean like weapons, guns.
Oh, weapons. Go on then.
I'd like to know your views about them carrying them.
Well, there's not much point us having a conversation unless you've got a view, have you?
Yeah, well,
Let us hear it then.
I think they should. Because of all the violence on the streets today, like vandalism, etc., armed robberies, I think they need them.
Which country in the world do you think has the worst incidence of street crime?
America.
What is different between American police and the ordinary British policeman?
They have guns. Yeah, guns.
It's not working over there, is it?
No, but...
Good.
You have been Beswicked.
And on this occasion, you were hoist with your own petard. All the illiterates will be writing in now and said, hey, he said petard on the radio, we're having none of that. How do, John?
Alan, the North Pole is the South Pole. Let me explain. You take a compass and the needle is points to the magnetic north, which is near enough to the north for all general purposes, isn't it?
It'll do for this.
It will do, yeah. Well, a magnet has a North Pole and a South Pole. Now, if you get a horseshoe magnet, one pole is north, one is south. If you get a bar magnet, one end is north, one end is south. If you get a round magnet...
Well, in your compass, it is a bar magnet shaved to a point, so carry on.
That's right. Well, so the principle of magnetism is that two poles, two North Poles, will repel one another.
The principle is like poles repel, unlike poles
That's
attract.
right. So for that needle to be attracted to the north, it must be a south pole that's attracting it.
No, it must be a magnetic pull, if you like.
Magnetic what?
Pull. Attraction. Attraction, if you like. Yes. And what they've done is when they were working out what to call them all, they said, well, this bit of the needle what points upwards, we shall call the north section, because it points at the north. But everybody knows that that bit of the needle is actually the southern bit. But it's all a matter of reference, you see. And they're just saying, well, we'll call it north, because it's pointing north.
Yep.
So it is. The bit of the needle that points to the north is known as the north section.
I see.
That doesn't mean that it is in fact the north section, because that is only a name. But it is the section of the needle that is attracted to the north.
That's right.
Well, it's right then.
And the same will in converse to the south pole.
Yes. Yep. But that's it, isn't it? It just says, well, that's the bit that's pointing north, so it's north. Nice try, though. How do, Tony?
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
I'd like to talk about suicide.
Go on, then.
On Friday night, you had a bloke on saying that his wife had left him and that he was going to kill himself. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, do you think he was winding you up, or what do you reckon?
Well, what do you think I thought?
Well, I don't know what you thought, but...
I know you don't know. I asked you what you thought I thought.
Yeah, what do I think you thought?
That's the question.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you thought he was winding you up.
Yes, well done.
Right. Well, do you think it would have been a good idea to sort of get into Ring Samaritans or Caroline or something like that?
Why bother when all he was doing was winding me up?
True.
Or trying to.
Yeah, but there could have been people listening who, could have been listening to that. And I mean, you said jump in a hot bath if you're going to cut your wrist first.
Well, yes, you might. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it efficiently. I don't like jobs half done. I can't be doing with jobs half done.
Yeah. Oh, well.
What are you suggesting? That all over the country, all over the county, and people who were somewhat depressed at the time were running out and buying Gillette 7 o'clock blades, gashing their wrists and leaping into hot baths? Because I don't remember reading of any that night.
No, but, I mean, it's a bit risky doing it, isn't it,
There's nothing in life that I do that isn't risky.
Yeah.
I take risks. I've taken one just after the 11 o'clock news. Could be facing unemployment tomorrow, but tough. That's the way I operate. That's what I do.
Yeah. Oh, well.
It's not really risky, is it? To me. If somebody else dies, so be it. I don't care. I'll still be alive.
Not to you, but I mean...
that's all I can worry about.
That's going to be on your conscience.
No, don't you think about it. Not one bit is it going to be on my conscience. You've got to care for that to happen, and I really don't care.
You don't care?
If someone is close enough to suicide, that me making such a... what I believe to be an irresponsible but nonetheless a jokey remark on the radio, if somebody then decides to actually gash their wrists and leap into the bath, fine. I haven't caused them to do it. I've only provided them with the method, and if it's actually a quick death, then perhaps I've done them a favour.
Do you think that guy was winding you up, Alan?
What do you think I thought?
Well, like I said, I think that you thought that he was probably winding you up.
Well, that's fine. You must make your own decision.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
Cheers.
All right.
Ta-ra. How do, Paul?
Hello, Alan.
Yes?
I spoke today with one of my mates, and they went in watching light first, and there was a bloke up in there who got charged with standing there with his head in between his legs, and a little kid went...
We've heard it. How do, Beverly?
How do? Do you believe in unemployment?
Do I believe in it?
Yeah.
Well, it's hardly a religion. It exists.
Yeah, but do you think there should be an unemployment?
I think we will inevitably have unemployment, even in the heyday of the 50s and 60s. Some people at some stage of their lives were at that moment without gainful employment, therefore by definition were unemployed.
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to ask me is, do I believe unemployment is too high at the moment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, something like that, yeah.
That is the answer. Yes, I do. How do, Mark?
How do, Alan?
What do you want?
I was just wondering if you could settle an argument. I've been having an argument with my brother about the poem you read out in Southport at Beswick Lodge. Did you write it, or did somebody else write it?
I wrote it.
Ah, so I've won then.
I've no idea. I don't know what your brother said.
Well, he said it was written by some woman.
No, it was written by me.
Written by you. Well,
OK.
thank you very much.
Get the money, send me half. It was my poem after all. How do, Paul?
How do, Alan? Remember me? I was talking to you at Ormskirk when you were on at a thing we did. The Donkey Derby.
I don't remember.
Me and a mate gave you a Mars bar.
Well, I get hundreds of those as well. What do you want, Paul?
Well, we just wanted to know what you thought of it.
Of the Mars bar?
No, of the Donkey Derby, like.
I didn't think of it at all.
You didn't?
Well, I didn't think of it. It was just a donkey derby. Seen one, seen them all.
No, I meant...
Cruel to donkeys, the truth is.
No, what I meant was, did you enjoy the day, like, you know?
I enjoyed the bits I wasn't working.
The bits
when
you
I
weren't
was
working?
When I was working, I was working, and either enjoy nor not enjoy.
I see.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was great.
Good. But then again, you met me. I only met you. How do, Gail?
Hello.
Hello.
Alan. Right, I've got a problem. When I listen to your radio show...
Program,
sorry.
Don't be sorry, be accurate.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Okay.
It's all right.
I get interference by the police, and I
Do
tune
you?
it in.
Aren't you the lucky one?
No, I'm just wondering how I could not get this interference.
Get a better aerial is one way, or listen on medium wave is, I suppose, another way.
Where are you on medium wave?
301 metres or 999 kilohertz if you've got a fancy one.
Right, thanks.
Pleasure.
Bye.
How do, Paul?
I'll do, Alan. I'd like to talk about the recent abolishment of the dog licence.
Abolition.
Well, same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. It's the right thing. Abolition.
Oh, right, abolition then. I think that if it is, if we don't have a dog licence, then there's going to be more stray dogs. There's going to be people aren't going to...
How does 7 and a tenner stop stray dogs? Because that's all the dog licence cost. 22.5 pence or something it was.
I think that it should be raised as well. You know, to about something like £5.
So you're indicating or advocating that we increase the cost of it or replace it, reintroduce it with a high-cost one. Unfortunately, a £5, you'd still lose money on it. The government would still lose money on it. It costs more than that to issue them.
Does it? Oh, right.
Now, let me ask you another question. Have you ever visited a dog pound?
Yeah, I have.
You have? And when you've been at that dog pound, have you ever noticed some of the dogs in there would cost you about 150 quid as a puppy?
Yeah.
So people who spend a lot of money on their dog still allow them to roam. So how much are you going to make the licence to prevent it? £10,000? £5,000? £150?
Right, yeah, I suppose you're right.
I'm always right.
You have been Beswicked.
So there we were, browsing through the swimsuits when this gorgeous hunk came up to us.
He didn't.
He did. He said, "You look like the sort of girl who's just booked her holiday with National Travel World's late booking desk, saved a fortune and got herself a microwave for only £79. So I thought to myself...
You didn't.
I did. I thought, how did he know? Turns out he's only a plumber from Preston and was in the queue behind me at National Travel World. But he took advantage of 10% discount on any item over £100 at Centro.
He didn't.
He did.
If you want a last-minute bargain holiday plus a microwave for only £79, book before the 30th of June at National Travel World's late booking desk.
Now, it's not everybody that drinks Thwaites bitter dressed in an authentic replica of the Black Prince's full armour. So why do I? Well, my mother says that silver suits me. And besides, me mates will know where I am. Because where else round here can you find a decent pint and a really good night?
Thwaites bitter, when you know what's what.
If the roof caves in or you need a new bin, get yourself down to Fairwood. Need a new front door or tiles on the floor, get yourself down to Fairwood. If the front gate squeaks or the radiator leaks or the house needs a lick of paint, then nail it, screw it, you know you can do it yourself with Fairwood. Need a tin of grout or a new downspout, do it yourself with Fairwood. Patio
Cemetery Road, Southport, Higgins Lane, Burscough, and now at Market Woods, Wigan Road, West Horton.
How do, Linda?
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
I'd like to talk to you about South Africa. I want to put the world straight. Well,
all of it?
Well, some of it. I'll start trying now. I think it's time that we in Britain stopped standing round with our arms folded and tutting at South Africa and began to do something. I mean, make real moves to free those people in Africa.
For instance?
Well, in the last war we fought for our personal freedom, and that is what black people in South Africa
Yeah, we know what they're
present-
doing. I've just asked you what you want us to do.
are at present being denied.
Yeah,
Now,
we know
have
what the
two
problem is.
courses
Linda,
of action.
right, tell me about the courses of action. That's
One
all
is-
I'm interested in.
One is sanctions, and everybody seems abhorrent to this because it would mean that the black people would suffer. The other alternative is the United Nations. The United Nations were formed as a peacekeeping force. Now, there is not peace in South Africa, not by any means, and I think it's time
Well,
to
just let us just examine those two things. We'll do them in reverse order because it's easier to do with the United Nations one first. If we, as a country, and by that I mean Her Britannic Majesty's government, start going to the United Nations saying, now look here, there isn't peace in South Africa and we want the United Nations to do something, what do you suggest we ask the United Nations to do?
Well, the United Nations have many powers, widespread.
Yeah, I asked you what we wanted them to
And
do.
trade.
A definition of their powers isn't enough.
Trade is one of them.
Well, the United Nations doesn't trade, so no, they can only do a trade embargo, and then it would take the agreement of all the nations, and we're going to come to that in a moment, so ignore trade, because we're going to talk about sanctions in a moment. Tell me what you want. Tell me
Trade
what...
embargo. Why wouldn't
Well,
all
hold
the
it a
countries
second,
agree?
hold it. We're dealing with things one at a time. The trade element will...
Tell me, why wouldn't all the countries...
Linda, shut up. Don't try to bully
Alan,
me.
Answer my question. Why wouldn't all the countries agree?
First of all, I'm not going to answer a question about a trade embargo at this section, because we're talking about two separate subjects. Now, I've asked you what you would want the United Nations
Okay,
to
the
do.
military forces of the United
Well,
Nations.
just relax a moment. It's no good getting excited. You've not
I
got...
am excited because
Yes,
it's people
Linda,
whose lives-
Linda, you came on... Linda, you came on with an objective. You will not achieve that objective by ranting. You will achieve it by logical processes
Alan,
of
don't
thought.
placate me. Placating people.
I'm
is
not...
what
Linda,
South Africa
Linda,
in the situation
Linda,
it is now.
Linda, shut up. I am not attempting to placate you. I am attempting to give you the opportunity to put your case concisely and indeed accurately. Now, I have asked you a question, that is all. You have two issues you wish to talk about, or two elements of an issue you wish to talk about. We will deal with the trade section of that argument later. For the time being, we're dealing just with an approach by Her Britannic Majesty's government to the United Nations. And I'm asking you what that nation, ourselves, should ask the United Nations. Listen to the... Hold it a minute. Linda, there is no point answering before you get asked, because the audience won't let the pigging you're on about. You will injure your case.
Continue, Alan.
I intend to. When we approach the United Nations, what do you want us to ask the United Nations to do?
Well, for a starter, we'd offer our forces to the United Nations. And I wouldn't, myself, be against the South Africa being an occupied state. Because within 6 weeks we could turn it over to a proper democracy.
Now, let me stop you a second there and say a number of people will agree with you. The United Nations, and I want your agreement or otherwise on this, do you think the United Nations is an impartial forum?
Well, it can be.
You think it can be?
It's possible.
Imagine the situation. The United Nations is approached by what we will refer to as the United Kingdom government, asking that the United Nations organises, arranges and collates, if you like, a force, an armed force, to move into South Africa, presumably against the wishes of the South African government. The reason given for that is because there is not peace and justice in South Africa. What do you think other countries will say at the United Nations in response to that?
Well, I can't imagine one supporting them, for starters.
You can't imagine what?
I can't imagine a single country supporting the South African government to the United
I see.
Nations.
Right. Do you think it is also possible that some other country might think it would be a good idea if we had peace on the streets of the United Kingdom?
That's not the issue.
No, it isn't, but we have to deal with what will happen if.
But we
now,
have our own peacekeeping forces in the United Kingdom.
Linda,
we have the police, we have the army, we are capable of doing violence in our own streets, and that is not the issue that I'm talking about.
Excuse me a moment. If you're suggesting to me, Linda, that we must not examine the consequences of your idea, then listen, Linda, listen, Linda,
of not doing anything in South Africa.
Linda, how old are you?
I'm 17.
Then let me put to you, Linda, that one of the things you will need is a little wisdom. Because,
now, don't start that,
Linda,
Alan. Everybody knows that the situation in South Africa cannot continue.
Linda,
even you would agree that we cannot continue to allow blacks to suffer in this way.
Linda,
Alan,
there is little point in assuming, rightly or wrongly for that matter, that I agree with you. Little point at all, because I'm not going to tell you at this juncture. But if we are to approach the United Nations, the inevitable consequence of your statement that we are able to maintain peace in our country, you can accept that in one of two ways. You can either say, yes, we can, almost as well as the South Africans are able to do it in their country listen,
Alan,
do please, shut up, Linda.
Liverpool with the situation in South Africa. We can't even report it in South Africa.
Linda, I'm not talking about Liverpool, I'm talking about Belfast. Where today a machine gunner hid behind a pram and opened fire.
I would
a machine gun.
United Nations into Northern Ireland, if that's what you're talking about.
Right.
If they could
so you would be right, Linda. So you would be perfectly happy to have United Nations troops in Northern Ireland.
Absolutely.
But do you think the United Kingdom government would be?
Yes, I think.
Well, let me tell you,
the United Kingdom people would be.
Well,
if there was a referendum on it.
Linda, we're not going to get a referendum on it.
I know,
Point
because
one.
I think we're misled, but I mean, that's a whole different issue.
Linda, it isn't a whole different issue. In order to convince Her Majesty's government to approach the United Nations, you have first of all got to convince them that there will not be consequences of that approach that they do not want. And you are not going to convince them because the inevitable consequence of such an approach in such a style to the United Nations will be that some other nation will approach and say that the United Nations troops will...
Name one other country.
North America, the United States of America. There is a massive Irish lobby. Most of the arms on the streets of Northern Ireland are paid for by American money. There is an enormous...
The majority of American people are against the shipment of arms.
Linda, you have an incredible capacity to make inaccurate assumptions.
Don't
Linda,
say that. How can you say that?
Linda.
How can you say that?
Linda.
Every American is peace-loving.
Linda.
Basically, in his heart.
Linda.
And
this nation that you have just accused of being peace-loving basically in his heart is currently arming to the teeth and allowing Iraqi ships to carry the American flag so that they can go in there with gunboats.
You want to talk about South Africa, or
good
do you
night.
Want to talk about something else?
The problem is, Linda, you are so immature, it is unbelievable. Your heart is in the right place, and fortunately your brain isn't with it. Good night, you silly little girl. How do David?
Right, Al. What sort about Tory government?
You will talk to me in a language I understand and not a pretended accent, or you will get off.
Pardon?
Granted. If you're deaf, you will not succeed on a telephone programme.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Tory government's initiative.
You were lying with your accent. Goodbye. How do Mike?
Hello, Alan. I work in a large firm as a painter and decorator, and the boss is trying to sack me so stupidly just because I drink a lot of tea.
Rather depends on when you drink it.
Well, listen, Alan, as I'm working, I'm painting, and I open my thermostat, and I just poured a cup of tea.
Your thermostat?
A thermostat.
What are you, a radiator?
A thermostat.
You have been Beswicked.
A thermostat?
It's just how you feel in the heat of the night.
nurses. For 3 days this week, Nursing Times will be holding a major exhibition at UMIS, Sackville Street in Manchester City Centre. See all the latest products, equipment and services on the market for nurses today. Visit the Job Forum to meet employers who are offering all the latest nursing jobs. And there are over 20 seminars giving free guidance on all the career opportunities in nursing. The Nursing Times exhibition is on today, tomorrow and Thursday at UMIS, Sackville Street in Manchester. Doors open at 10 a.m. Admission's free to all nurses. Don't miss it.
The Red Rose Advertiser. It's a breakfast show, a morning market. It's a What's on Diary and a blast from Beswick. It's the paper that's on your wavelength. The Red Rose Advertiser. And when it comes through your front door, look inside, because all that's fit to be read is in the Red Rose Advertiser.
How do to... Well, it was going to be Vince, but he appears to go on walkabout. How do, Vince?
Hello.
Oh, you are there. What can we do for you?
I was wondering what your opinions would be.
I don't know. Tell me yours.
Well, I'll put the question forward first.
I don't want a question. I want your opinion.
Do you think the UK would have been better off in the long run?
That's a question. I don't want a question. I want your... I do not want a question! I want your opinion, you garmless prat! Are you deaf or stupid? Shut up! Give me your opinion or get off.
What would the answer...
Get off! Give me your opinion or get off. Get off, you garmless toad! Howdy, Bruce. Speak louder, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to give you my opinion.
Still can't hear you properly. Speak louder still.
I'm going to give you my opinion on Viraj Mendy.
Then do so.
I think we should chuck him out.
Fine. Do you think we should invade the church?
Yeah.
With arms?
No.
Just wander in, break in sanctity. A tradition, a tradition of centuries.
Well, there's no law.
We're not bothered about law. Law is tradition. Common law is tradition. Most of the laws of this country are based on the tradition.
Yeah, but not all. That one is.
You think we should break sanctity?
I think the police should...
Sorry?
I think the police should dismarch him.
But that's a breach of sanctity. You think sanctity shouldn't exist?
Yeah.
Fine. I'm not going to argue because I can hardly hear you. Still think you're a prat. Howdy, Chris.
Hello,
Hello.
Oh, what's talking about my neighbours?
Don't name them or identify them.
Huh?
Don't name them or identify them, deaf lugs.
We've got some dogs, and they keep jumping over into the garden. And
Build a fence higher.
Huh?
Are you deaf?
No.
No.
Well, I mean, they keep digging my roses up, like, is there anything I can do about it?
Yeah, bury your roses deeper. Set them in concrete. Good Lord. Howdy, David.
Hello.
Hello.
I've got an opinion about the Irish problem, Alan, and I'd like your comments on it, please.
Let's hear your opinion.
My opinion is that whatever we all expound about a solution to Ireland, there is actually no solution to the Irish problem, because the Irish people, the north of Ireland, has always fought the south of Ireland since prehistory. If you go back to Brian Boru and the kings of Tara and Ulster, they always fought Leinster and Munster. And all it is throughout history that the reasons for fighting north and south have changed. You know, the excuses, but the north has always fought the south. And if we were to make a united Ireland now and sort of do away with, you know, as the British sort of say, well, let's shelve the problem and make Ireland a united state, all would happen is that Southern Ireland, with a weaker government, a weaker police force and a weaker army, would inherit a bigger majority of dissatisfied Northern Ireland Protestants who would create them an even greater problem than we face now.
I accept your historical comments. I even accept your conjecture on what the situation would be if we today made a united Ireland. I do not accept your pessimism that there is no solution. I maintain that there is a solution, it is just not immediately available. Well, the solution is to convince people that they want to live together.
The problem is that people have been so deep-seated for many years in fighting each other, they don't really want an excuse to live together.
I would disagree with that supposition, because in the vast majority of Northern Ireland, and we're just dealing with Northern Ireland for the moment, in the vast majority of Northern Ireland, the people do live side by side. There is a state that I have stayed in on a number of occasions called Newton Breda. And I stayed in a house owned by a person of one particular religion, a practicing member of that religion. 3 doors down, there was another practicing member of that religion, and about 7 doors down, another one. All the ones in between were what we'll describe as the opposite religion. That street, like many other streets, and that's on the outskirts of Belfast, like many other streets, had a community spirit not dissimilar to the estate I was brought up on as a child. The vast majority of Northern Ireland is like that. There are hotheads in Northern Ireland. There are places where there are, should we say, Roman Catholic and Protestant ghettos in Northern Ireland, and it is in those relatively tiny communities where the problems are caused and exist. To leave Northern Ireland for the moment and go to Southern Ireland, I will tell you a story of a Roman Catholic family that moved to Southern Ireland. When they got to Southern Ireland, they'd moved from Belfast. They moved into a block of flats in Dublin. The local people in that block of flats started speaking to them and said, "Oh, you're from the north," and all that. And when they realised they were from the north, they actually sent the local vicar, the Protestant vicar, to their home. And this was arranged by the people of Dublin. They sent a Protestant vicar to their home. As it happens, they were a Roman Catholic family. The Northern Ireland people were assumed to be Protestant because they are in the majority. It was wrong, but it was the gesture that matters. The Catholics of Dublin, of this block of flats, actually went to the vicar and said, "Look, there's a Protestant family moved in, there's a Belfast family moved in." The vicar knocked on the door and said, "How do, I'm the local vicar." And they said, "Oh, come in, have a cup of tea, we're Catholics." And he said, "Well, that's amazing, because it was the Catholics that sent me." So the people of Northern Ireland and the people of the Republic of Ireland want a peaceful life, just like you do, just like I do, just like the majority of people on the planet do. There are lunatics that go a long way to removing that peace. They are not in the majority by any means. And I believe, in time, that the lunatics can be, if you like, destroyed.
Do you think it's perhaps a reflection on modern life and the media and the way that everything is reported in such a way today that an act by a single person in planting a bomb can create feeling amongst a community?
Absolutely.
To say that there's hundreds of Catholics are fighting hundreds of Protestants, when in fact that is not the case.
I often wonder.
I mean, I know people who've been on holiday to Northern Ireland for many years, who go fishing there and what have you, and they never see any trouble. They never, hear about the trouble.
Well, might I put to you, David, that is an argument against your earlier point? There is a chance of peace.
There is.
It isn't tomorrow.
In the political climate that exists there, and the fact that the way that the seats are arranged and the MPs are elected,
yes,
a certain point of view from Northern Ireland is always going to come across.
I don't think
another part of the population is always going to feel oppressed.
No, I don't think always is acceptable. I think it's going to be that way for a long time. I think that consecutive British governments, I would suggest it started with Merlin Rees, but Willie Whitelaw was good at it as well. But consecutive British governments have started to look at the Northern Ireland problem not as something you fire bullets at, but or even something you throw money into, but something where you actually make a decision that you have got to talk to all parties and give all parties equal credibility, or their voice equal credibility. That is a step in the right direction. It is only a step. It is a very, very long road, and they've taken one step on it. But I don't accept the pessimistic view that it will never be resolved. It will. It will be resolved by the people of Northern Ireland.
I just feel in the way that we're going along at the moment, and the way our own politicians and politicians in Ireland treat with the problem and use it as an election issue in Ireland, that it won't be solved that way. That it's got to come from a meeting of the community as opposed to a political situation where people can gain votes by saying, we'll always stay Protestant, and we'll keep the Catholics out of government here and what have you. And I equally believe that in the south, Northern Ireland, before the present troubles, was always industrially and economically much stronger than the south. And that certain concerns in the South were worried about the economic competition they would receive if they were, if the two countries were so mixed.
Fine, I accept all of that. I don't have any argument to put against you other than your pessimism. That I will argue with.
Well, as you say, I think it will be a very, very long-term
Fine,
thing.
we've got you off never and into a very long time.
Yeah.
We've made some progress.
Okay,
If we can do that with 1,000 people every day in Northern Ireland, it'd be solved by the end of the year. Cheers.
Okay,
Ta-ra.
thanks, Bob.
How do Lydia?
Hello.
Yes.
Is the gentleman that was on before talking about various substances in the tap water?
Yes.
You made the, I think, the wrong assumption that chlorine was good for your teeth. And it's actually fluoride.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, it is. But it's still a bleach.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't want people cleaning their teeth
I
with
don't
chlorine.
think
It
it'd be
won't be
nice.
awfully well. No, I'm sorry. Yes, it is fluoride, not chlorine.
And the other thing
Thank
is,
you for that correction.
The other thing is,
Go on.
why do you say assume? When you say, the word assume.
Oh, you want me to say assume?
Assume.
It's an affectation.
Is it?
Yeah, that is how I speak.
Oh, I see. Right.
Nothing I can do about it. I'm
No,
stuck with it.
okay.
I ain't going to try and change it. All right. Thanks,
Thank
love.
you. Bye.
Ta-ra now.
Emma and her little gang had been tea-partying furiously ever since breakfast. The 5 dolls, the teddy, the mouse, and the green thing with eyes were quite exhausted. Mother's suggestion that they all take a nap seemed wise indeed. So Emma made everyone lie down. She fetched a towel as a blanket and a roll of lovely soft Kleenex velvet toilet tissue as a pillow for Teddy. And as she tucked it beneath his head, she was sure she heard him say thank you.
Kleenex Velvet. Softness is our strength.
So there we were, browsing through the swimsuits when this gorgeous hunk came up to us. He didn't. He did. He said, "You look like the sort of girl who's just booked her holiday with National Travel World's late booking desk, saved a fortune and got herself a microwave for only £79. So I thought to myself... You didn't. I did. I thought, how did he know? Turns out he's only a plumber from Preston and was in the queue behind me at National Travel World. But he took advantage of 10% discount on any item over £100 at Centro. He didn't. He did.
If you want a last-minute bargain holiday plus a microwave for only £79, book before the 30th of June at National Travel World's late booking desk.
If the roof caves in or you need a new bin, get yourself down to Fairwood. Need a new front door or tiles on the floor, get yourself down to Fairwood. If the front gate squeaks or the radiator leaks or the house needs a lick of paint, then nail it, screw it, you know you can do it yourself with Fairwood. Need a tin of grout or a new downspout, do it yourself with Fairwood. Patio flags and cement in bags, do it yourself with Fairwood. Keep the weather out, insulate the house, you can save yourself on mint. Just nail it, screw it, you know you can do it yourself with Fairwood.
At Cemetery Road Southport, Higgins Lane Burscough, and now at Market Woods, Wigan Road, West Horton.
This Sunday sees the last in the present series of free car window marking sessions organised by Lancashire Police and Red Rose Radio. It's in the car park of Blackburn's new town centre shopping precinct, and the entrance is in Exchange Street. Experts from Autoglass, the national windscreen company, will mark your car windows absolutely free, but we'd like you to make a small donation to a police charity. It's between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m, so go along and help protect your car from thieves.
20 minutes to midnight.
Win £50, £20, £15 each week at the Newmarket and M2 Market, Waterloo Road, Blackpool.
Just after midnight, when we get back on the phones after the midnight news, you will hear a new voice on Red Rose Radio, Kate Adams, who for one evening and one evening only, between midnight and the melodic moment, will be doing the phone-in. Kate Beswicked me at an argue with Allan at Manchester University that we did some time ago. So if you want to have a chat to Kate, then ring us now or indeed after the midnight news on Preston 56 1000. I'll be back after the melodic moment and he will be here until midnight. But after midnight, it's our Kate Adams from Southport.
Allan Beswick.
Now do David.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to go on about the lady who on earlier, Linda, who was slating South Africa as much and saying how she would like to correct all the problems there. I'd like to ask her how long she'd lived there. I lived there for nearly 2 years and have an entirely different view of the situation.
Give us your view.
I see the society with terrible problems. I can't see an answer, quite honestly, but certainly sending troops in and taking over won't help. I was there only 6 weeks ago for a very short period of time, and the attitude in the last... I've been out of the country for 12 months, but I've been back in England, and the attitude of the people who've changed, you can't believe. I mean,
when you define the people, or when you say the people, define to whom you refer.
I refer to the students, such as Stellenbosch University, which is an absolute Afrikaans stronghold where you'd expect the seedbed of apartheid to go on and on. They've changed. They're demonstrating for complete and utter free vote for everybody. So the country is changing.
Well, is it changing? You can say that the country is changing.
I can say the attitude is changing.
You can say all of those things, but the mandate given to the government in its recent election was clearly not a mandate to follow that change, but in fact to contradict that change and redraft some of the legislation.
Yes, absolutely right.
So the government. The government clearly has been led to believe by the electorate that they do not want reform.
Absolutely right.
So whether a bunch...
are not allowed to vote. You can't vote there when you're 18. He's 21, and there will be change there.
That is a matter of opinion. You do not know. You can only guess that when these students acquire the right to vote, that they will continue to hold the beliefs they hold. Young people frequently change their view quickly.
Of course, that's a democratic society. To do it.
Once they have a position to maintain. When they are just students and all they have to do is eat, sleep, study and think, they hold some very, very, should we say, extreme views in both directions.
Yes, but when a student's at university where his mind is like a sponge and he's developing and he's taking in all these ideas.
When they end up as adults, they start to look at some of what they perceive as the practicalities of life, and their views often change.
Yes, that's quite true, and I agree with the elections that they've just had and exactly the mandate that they've been given by the people.
So, David,
the constituencies are arranged there so that the Nationals almost impossible to
Indeed,
be got out.
The constituencies are arranged that way. Now, you're the one that says...
I'm saying that the attitude of the people, the base people, is changing.
But David,
I've been there and seen it.
David, you have also said that that attitude will not change the government, and the reason you gave for it was that the constituencies arranged in such a way as the current government will continue to be the government.
They will only continue to be the government until the